Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Town of Ulysses Planning Board meeting for January 21st, 2025. First order is a roll call of board members.
Jeff McDonald.
Mark Gregg.
Linda Little.
Carl Tankowski, Chair.
Simon Bernard.
For tonight's agenda, we have the following items: approval of the January 7th meeting minutes, privilege of the floor. And then for new business items, the Koskinen two-lot land division sketch plat review and Smith two-lot land division sketch plat review. And then board member reports. Then one thing Neil's asked me to add under the board member report section is to officially designate our vice chair for 2025. We apparently didn't do that last meeting, so we'll add that in there. All right,
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
Second.
all in favor?
Hi.
All right. Has everyone reviewed the draft minutes for the January 7th meeting? Any corrections or modifications?
Not for me.
Look good to me.
All right,
I'll make a motion.
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Hi.
Okay. Privilege of the floor. Do we have anybody online? I think both of you are here for business tonight. In that case, I think we'll just, do I have a motion to close privilege of the floor?
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Hi.
All right. New business, first we have the Koskinen two-lot land division sketch plat review. Proposal to subdivide the existing 37.9 acre parcel located at 4248 Waterbird Road into two lots. Parcel A approximately 6.29 acres and parcel B approximately 31.64 acres. Whoever, would you care to come up and kind of enlighten us on what you're doing here?
Thank you, board. My name is Kyle Koskinen. I'm here to represent the SR Koskinen Irrevocable Family Trust for this piece of property. On behalf of Roger Koskinen. The purpose of this is to divide current 4248 Waterberg Road lot into two separate lots. The first lot would remain with a structure on it with 400 feet of frontage with approximately 6.5 acres. The second lot, when I originally submitted the application, fell short according to the old survey. It was 381 feet. I just received a new survey, which was 400.12 feet for the second lot.
Yeah.
I don't think it has any particular effect on the ability to split the lot, but if someone was to try and go and build on the bigger chunk, the roughly 30, almost 32 acres with the new DEC wetlands reviews and that sort of stuff, it may be difficult to find buildable space on that lot that's accessible.
I agree. And that's why I'm buying that lot, so that doesn't happen as well. Because that lot borders my property behind there and attaches to it as well,
Okay.
to the north.
Your intent is to purchase the subdivided land and preserve it?
Yes.
Does your parcel join that directly?
The current person does, to the north.
And you're showing which one?
Yep.
You're up there.
So you
Yeah.
want to take all of those?
That's,
Incorporate into that, or do you want to keep it as a drawing to separate? Okay, right. So there was like, say, you'll outline that just went out.
Yeah. I want to keep it so.
Other questions from the board members? Okay, so- Let 'em make it.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how much of this would actually be buildable land because of the designated wetland area.
Oh, yeah, most of it.
Part of the zoning is that in order to be subdivided, it has to be buildable.
I understand that, which is a small section to the front that would
Yeah.
be, but the intention is not to build it. As is, as long as I own it, I want to keep it recreational, I'm gonna have it hunter and. That's part of the reason, plus it borders my property to the south.
Yeah, so the regs, at least as they're currently written, doesn't mean that the property owner can't subdivide their land. And if that lot, like this one, say we're completely undevelopable. Like they can still put that in a trust. We came across one a while ago where they put it into a conservation easement, and you can do the same thing. The lot itself doesn't have to.
Yeah, I think right along the old Waterberg Road, you would probably have to get. Work out a deal with the DEC to be able to build right along that front edge up there.
Yeah,
You know,
you'd
'cause
have to seek approval.
There are DEC permits and that sort of stuff that you would get into potentially once it was all delineated, but. You know, it looks solid enough ground right off the road there that. But it would probably involve working with the DEC to come up with that, but for your purposes, keep it as hunting land, it works just fine.
Yeah,
And with 400 foot to each property, takes care of nothing for the BZA to deal with.
The other thought is, sorry to interrupt, with my other property on that road, if I ever sold and moved south, I still have plenty of property to come back to as well. Well, that's why I want to keep it separate.
Well, I think we probably got information enough then. Do we want to schedule a public hearing?
yeah,
Yeah,
for our next week,
Our
next,
next meeting is
meeting,
2
yeah.
weeks up the road, the 4th of February. Did that work for you?
Just make sure I'm in the state.
That's probably useful.
I will be here, yes. The next following week, no.
You'll have to get signage from Neil's. It needs to be posted at least 10 days ahead along the road there. But
Been through it.
anything else we need, Neil's, you can see? So. In that case, thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
you too.
You did.
Well,
So
let's
he's
get-
talking.
I guess I should have formally said, do I have a motion to schedule final plat review and public hearing on
Yeah, I'll
4
make it.
February?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Hi.
All right, sorry, I gotta follow the script here.
You're all rusty.
All right, next we have the Smith 2-lot land division sketch plat review. Proposal to subdivide the existing 117.77 acre parcel located at 3182 Waterberg Road into 2 lots. Parcel A approximately 11.57 acres and parcel B approximately 106 acres. All right.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Katrina Medeiros. I'm an attorney with Thaler and Thaler here for Dan Smith, the applicant. Again, pretty straightforward. Parcel A is 11.57 acres, has 558.6 feet of road frontage. It has all of the improvements. It's basically the home farm. And it subdivides it from parcel B, which is, I think, 106.2 acres. And also has adequate road frontage. It's all delineated on the survey map. Like the prior applicant, I think this is a buildable lot because our wetlands are off to the side where there's plenty of acreage. Not that I think that's it's really gonna stay farming. But it's really just separating the home farm from the acreage. That's the intent.
Yeah, it was interesting when I drove by this morning, man, it looked like the sign by the road said 3180 where the house is. And the property is listed as 3182, the little green sign
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah, no.
But neither here nor there, it doesn't change anything. It's just.
So the land that's shown in the map that you have that is the majority of the 106 acres.
Yeah, so I can turn the map around. So and I can pass it up, but the home farm is here, parcel A, the 11 acres. And then this is the 106
Okay.
acres, and it has this little tail on.
It's interesting. It shows area equals like 11.57 acres
Mhm.
on that,
On parcel A, yes, for the home
uh,
farm.
on that larger section.
No, the larger section here is 106.2.
Oh, in the bold in the center, it shows.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I was confused. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, your little bit of wetlands out there off the 100 acres is not gonna be of any consequence. The last one where it was roughly 30 or 32 acres was a bit more of a challenge, but. Chance to finish looking.
You want to look at the actual big map?
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Do you know if this is in preparation for sale?
It's the same question for you then. Are you available on the 4th of February if we do the public
Final.
hearing and the final plat review?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Ours, it doesn't have partial A, partial B. I was just looking and usually it says partial A, partial B, but we didn't have it on this.
So,
Are you working with Lee?
Yes,
Can you get them to?
with the road frontage. on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, well, if you use the scale, I was gonna suggest that it's probably sufficient, but I can get him to do that, yeah,
That's what
Okay.
recording.
no problem.
any other questions, comments?
You can keep this.
Yeah, we need the other ones. That's fine.
All right. Do I have a motion to schedule final plat review and public hearing on 4 February?
Yep.
All in favor?
I,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need like a basketball possession arrow for who's gonna second it.
Yeah. Your turn.
We can move it around.
It's good you guys are all ready to jump up and keep this moving. We're working just fine on this.
It's cold outside.
Yeah. We know who we have on Zoom there.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm Dan Smith.
oh,
okay.
I finally figured out how to turn the sound on.
good job.
Don't feel lonesome. I would have the same
Yeah.
challenges.
Okay, but Katrina was there, so that pretty much takes care of it.
I'll give you a call, Dan, and give you the report.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. So, why do we need to have a hearing for a subdivision? Do you know why? I know, but why did the state make it? Because it never used to be that way. Not.
You
a few
don't
years
really
ago.
have to, but it's probably a good idea.
We
To have
have
it.
to because of state law.
What?
Under state law, we have to,
Oh, is it?
yeah.
Someplace in
Yeah.
the state, somebody didn't have one.
I thought it was
Created
like.
an issue.
Yeah, must have,
Yeah, we
because
didn't have-
generally
No,
speaking,
state law?
yeah.
Well, then we missed a lot of them.
Well,
Yeah, it's all right.
even coming to before.
No, I'm
You
talking about
got-
years ago. We never.
Yeah.
had it.
We didn't even have to come to the planning board
No.
subdivision. Yeah, it was just like, did it follow code? Fine, go for it.
I have a question about the Tuscan lot. So if he wants to, even though it says that land must be buildable for a bastard, that it can be an option. It's not like this, that has to meet this quality. Natural and historic features and conformity to other subdivision plans nearby.
Yeah,
It's just
so,
A or B.
well, so two different ways. I mean, arguably it is buildable, like Carl mentioned, you would just have to get approvals from
DEC
DEC.
permit.
And then he'd also, most
See.
likely would also have to go to the BZA to get.
I would
setback
like to
variances.
see a building envelope put in place on this lot because it's.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how New York, I'm not sure how New York State went, but in Washington, where most of my experience is, like, that used to be something that all plats had.
Yeah, and that's what, so,
But legally, the state flipped and said it's actually good not to do that. Same thing with wetlands. Now, we currently have wetlands and streams on plats where Washington and California led eventually is like, don't put those on plats because plats wind up being kind of like a variance. They wind up being in perpetuity as long as it's on title. Carl's mentioned this, it's like, it's on the record. And wetlands change year by year, and those boundaries change all the time. And same thing with building setbacks. A town can change its setbacks and everything else. So if that happens, they're still bound by what's on the recorded
so
survey.
then this way, anytime there's a future development, we'll have to take the new information.
Yeah, and that's where it really comes into play. So. I don't know, did any of the rest of you guys get the,
State or
The town.
oh, because the state, has also look under. Where is it? 277.
yes,
You get into a thing too where it's almost becomes a taking, especially on a big parcel like that.
Yeah.
versus-
Yeah, because there's lots of reasons why somebody. would
yeah,
want
there's,
something.
there could be
Yeah,
one for the.
just
And
easier
not
when you're
have
hunting
it be-
and this goes and
yeah,
all
right.
that.
Like we have a lot that,
This is
a lot that
part of it.
is tagged as a building lot, but it's not, because it's where the water supply is.
I'd be way more concerned if he was doing a little lot.
Yeah.
That was
Right.
the tiniest lot that he could subdivide off, and it's like, ugh.
This is-
Or that, and it was on a cliff.
Yeah.
Totally
Did
within the limit.
any of the rest of you get a chance to listen on the 15th to that webinar on this new wetland stuff?
I didn't even know there was one.
No.
I
didn't
sent it
either.
out as an email or like a response to it, but I sent it to everybody to the planning for this meeting.
Yeah.
To say, and I put the webinar info on for the 15th. It
didn't
was
know
probably
that.
only a day or so before that I sent it out, so. That's why I put this summary together, and then the second thing I gave you, that comes right off of their website. That walks you through this, so it really, it kind of, as I see this, for us as the planning board. Until it would come up as a building lot. That somebody is actually planning to do something on, and they've already gone to the state with their plans and that. We would then want to be looking for this jurisdictional paperwork as part of the package. To know that they had gone to the DEC. And that, so the first half of the page up here is more definitions and that, and like this. Wetlands of unusual importance, that's sort of the catch-all that they've added in there now. So they can, you really look at almost anything that's out there. And even though as of the 1st of January, that the old wetlands maps remain informational. They still remain as the basis or a major part of the basis of what they're using to determine. If there is a jurisdictional issue. So the way it works now, the property owner goes, or the builder representing the property owner. Planning to do new construction or major renovation on property with possible wetlands or old New York State wetlands. Needs to electronically file a jurisdiction request with the state DEC. It's on their website, it's a little 2-page form with about 8 lines of information. It's really your contact information and property address and the tax map number. Then the DEC state office is where this goes to. They've got 90 days to respond, and they're essentially doing electronic reviews to determine what's out there in mapping stuff and that, to see if there are wetlands on the piece of property that you're talking about. Not worrying anything about how much of it covers or what the delineation is and all that sort of stuff. So if they come back they either come back with, this is sort of like the. The other review that we do in relation to properties and stuff, you know, this negative response. The same thing, they come back with a negative jurisdiction, meaning there are no, the DEC doesn't have any lands on that piece of property that they recognize. In which case you're good to go, just deal with the local authorities and go from there. If you get one of these, a positive jurisdiction. Then you get into the fact you got a 120-day window, the property owner has to submit a wetland delineation application to the regional DEC office. And then the regional DEC office is gonna get down into the weeds of figuring out how much, where the wetland actually is. And there's several communications between the property owner and the DEC, and the final step in that is the DEC comes out and actually walks the property. What they decided as the line and on the ground decide if they got it right. And then that would give you the official delineation for the wetland, and then you got the 100-foot setback beyond that. So for our purposes, you know, when Niels does the site review and that sort of stuff, if we see things that jump up in there like a wetlands, then we probably need to be looking for that. And I would think for your offices, Niels, is to be coaching the property owners that they gotta get into this lovely entertainment and go for it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the DEC, if they walk and map it out, do we get a copy of that?
I would think we would want it included with the package, because we're gonna need to know where
Right,
the
exactly.
limits are,
Yeah.
and so to see
Well, to do the
It'll-
100.
the 100-foot
Yeah,
and
because
for
they would draw,
setbacks.
they would put the line of this is where it is. and
Yeah.
100 feet from there.
Yeah,
It'll have to get surveyed and somebody will have to do the survey map
Yeah,
with
there
it
you
added
go.
to
Yeah,
the
all
property.
that detail on it, yeah.
Yeah, the detail would have to be on it, but
Yeah.
we've had maps that haven't had the detail. in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And so that's really where I see it coming into play for us, is if it, you know, if the site review jumps up and it looks like there's wetlands there, then we're gonna be needing to look for the rest of the paperwork. And for Niels and Mark, that's kind of why I brought this along for you guys. I don't know have you guys gotten any official training on this and what to be dealing with?
No,
Just winging it, okay.
When's the implementation start?
It started the 1st of January of this year.
but that said, I mean, I went on to the webinar too, and New York State's moving in a trajectory that I'm more used to on the West Coast as far as delineations, and I think Ulysses eventually get up to speed as well. Where those maps shouldn't be law, it should just be informational purposes, because again, wetlands change. in a
Yeah.
year. So what'll happen now? And I had a question out to Nate on this, because it's something that people might hear is, because they were saying site plan reviews from planning boards are subject to this, so. If that's the case. It would make sense because it's the first authority that the town's getting prior to either a building permit or a public works permit.
Yeah.
Is that we need to have a delineation done by a professional, so. They have 90 days to. Go
The
to
state
DEC.
does, yeah.
But then if the state comes back and says, yeah, you got wetlands, then it's up to the applicant to either ask the DEC to do delineation on site or to
Or hire
hire
a
a
consultant.
professional.
Yeah.
And if they hire a professional, that still has to go back to DEC for reviewing, blessing.
Yeah,
It is
So
started
who's-
when?
Yeah, January 1st.
it's already in effect.
When did so who's responsible for, since they do change and it could move onto a property that was never before? What's our responsibility, the town's
Well-
responsibility for inspecting the site to see if
Well, once it's
they
delineated,
have?
Well, even
No, before
Well,
that.
Before then, DEC, because you're gonna have to get something back from the applicant that they got from DEC saying that it's either
And we take
negative,
their
there's
word.
nothing there. No,
we
there
look
should
for
be
the-
a form
the
coming
form.
from
There would be an
DEC.
email coming back from the state DEC.
But they're only going by the informational purposes, right? If nobody, so they're using the existing maps, wetland maps.
No,
And-
Is it
and
no, the
LiDAR,
information, I
other
think
stuff. Yeah,
informationally, it's probably more for the homeowner and applicant to get an idea of what might be there. But DEC, I'm gonna bet, is gonna pull up aerial photography and things like that.
Right.
And look at what they can see from above.
Okay, that's
to-
what I thought when we
yeah.
went to the session before, but that didn't sound
Yeah.
like.
Well,
what they were
no,
gonna
this
do
is
now.
another chunk of this stuff, and it says a rulemaking amendment to 6 New York, Part 16, freshwater wetlands mapping and classification of freshwater wetlands jurisdiction. Implement amendments to the Freshwater Wetlands Act. Let's see. In 2022, environmental conservation laws amended January 1. Freshwater wetland maps will no longer limit DEC regulatory jurisdiction to wetlands depicted in those maps. DEC's regulatory protection to freshwater wetlands no longer be limited to wetlands depicted on New York State freshwater wetlands. As of January 1, wetlands referred to as previously mapped freshwater wetlands, jurisdictional protections for previously mapped wetlands remain as DEC's jurisdictional authority expands to include wetlands meeting the freshwater wetland definition and state jurisdictional criteria for protection. Jurisdictional determination of wetlands will be made remotely based on wetland acreage and characteristics meeting small wetlands of unusual importance. That's that whole list of junk on there. And as of January, yeah, it's still 12.4 acres until January 1 of 2028, when it goes to half that size, which is 7.4 acres. I think it's because the wetlands sort of a rounded area. It's like the cross section of a circle. Something, because during that webinar, they asked the guy why the 7.4, and he said, well, that's essentially half the size of the 12.4 that it is now. Additionally, DEC proposed a statewide general, let's see, somewhere's in here, it said where they were going to look at all this stuff.
So every site plan needs to go to the DEC so that they can do an aerial view and see if
You
they
get
think
a
there's
negative,
wetland.
yeah, either a negative or positive
that's-
determination.
Okay, so we have to wait 90 days
Well,
for any site
well,
plan.
when they come in to start talking to Niels or Mark, that's when they really need to cue the property owner up to go online and file this form with state DEC and get the nine.
When who comes in?
The
When
property owner comes
okay,
in thinking
gotcha.
about doing something, so they start that 90-day clock. Cause we're really gonna need to have either that negative declaration or a positive one, and they're working on the other part of it. Before you seriously get into dealing with doing something with the property. Some of them are gonna be pretty obvious, you know, when you look at it, there's no wetlands indicated on there, but you're still gonna need the negative declaration. So really, the queuing sort of on this is for you guys, when they come up, if they give you any lead time or come in and talk to you about it ahead of time, if they're thinking about this, to convince them to go out there and get online and put this form on. And to go online, if you go to this up on top, this freshwater wetlands jurisdictional, if you go into that website, it jumps right up in the forms there. It's
So
really easy to
that-
get to.
So is that the trigger to the DEC to do the check?
Yeah,
of
you
it?
gotta
think?
file the form. If you don't file the form, they're never gonna
No,
do
yeah.
anything about it.
Well,
So,
no,
on
I
any
know, I'm
building,
just
you
trying
have
to
to do
figure
it.
it out.
I think so. If you're gonna build on a property.
Yeah.
You're gonna need that negative declaration, I think.
Yeah, so the thing that's weird though, I mean, once, I think in 2028 is when it goes down to the.
7.4, yeah.
But you can have. A wetland smaller than that, if it meets a
Yeah.
criteria of, there's 11 different criteria for unique wetlands.
Yeah, that's this whole A through K
So that's where I
on
think
there is all the other stuff that could come in.
their online map doesn't really capture that, so that's where.
Yeah.
You get someone who's trained in it can look at aerials like Jeff was talking about and pinpoint things,
Right.
but that needs a professional to go out on
And
site.
take a look at it.
Yeah.
And so that action has to, if that has to,
Soil and
Spill and like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're looking at is
Soil,
soil and
hydraulic,
planting and all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I see vernal pools are now included in
Yep.
this also, which they never were before.
But they have to be have enough egg masses in it
Yeah.
that they're productive vernal pools.
Yeah.
So all of that is,
Go there.
is all of that captured in the 90-day window?
They're gonna be
Start with
looking at all that mess to say whether there is a jurisdiction or not, that the DEC has jurisdiction.
I'll just
So
say that
we
there's,
need to have this on our website.
there's a
so-
vernal pool down on a old dirt
Yeah, I
road.
would leave it with the
In
state.
the Hudson
website,
Valley.
Just refer them to the
It's
state.
about
you
20
know.
feet by
DEC
25
I'll
feet.
link- I'll
But it's
link
about
to it.
8
Right, well,
inches
that's-
deep in the
yeah.
spring, and that
This
is now a wetland.
Jurisdictional DEC, however we get them there.
Every time a tree
You know,
comes
for
up
building.
and makes a hole, you've got a vernal pool.
Could be the first thing on the application, this is what you have to do first.
Oh, okay, well, that'll be interesting to see how that works.
So
out.
how long before somebody challenges this at the federal level with the new,
It probably has been done already.
I'm guessing the paperwork is in process.
And for contact purposes, for the people getting involved in the local DC, we're in region 7 of the DEC is where we're, you know, the main office is in Syracuse, but there is a branch office in Cortland. But I think it's more the property owners dealing with that than us, but that's why I took that webinar, I was stumbling around, came across it and said, well, this would make sense to listen to this and get an idea. You know, what they're saying about it and then go ahead, and that's why I put at least my take on it summary together, and it's good that you're on there to see kind of proof it, but then also this couple, 4 or 5 pages that walks you right through what they're doing, I think is useful. Just for information for us to know sort of how the process works and what they're looking at. So that we have a reasonable idea of what we're looking for and why.
Projects that are already in work,
There's,
so a 2 to 3 year grace period, so they still need to go through this process.
well, whether it's going to apply or not, you know, and that's more like big projects they're talking about. If you're building a, you know, some big shopping center or
Hotel
something or
or- yeah,
hotel that
yeah,
you've
right.
already, you know, you're a year into this and,
Yeah.
or the city is doing some major renovation or something, and so that there's phase in time on this.
And I see it also incorporates floodplain.
Yeah,
And down in Ithaca, they're now building on the island, those 2 big
Right.
apartment buildings, that flooded.
yeah,
That area once flooded, especially where Cayuga built their spot, that whole area flooded.
But it might have been only in a 500 year.
yeah, well, anyway,
Well, 500 year has now turned into like a 50 year.
I know,
Right.
I know.
And-
I know.
But I'm just saying, many years ago, that's one of the reasons that canal was put in was for flooding.
Yeah,
the other thing the DEC is doing to try and make some of this more reasonable in the long run, they are looking at doing like the Army Corps of Engineers and coming out with several standard permits that if this property falls into this category.
Yeah, I saw that on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are 5 different types of permits.
Yeah,
they're
some
putting in.
4 or 5, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
They're working on the same idea as the
Yeah.
Corps of Engineers uses, that, you know, instead of having to
Oh, 4, yeah, it's 4 general
Go-
permits, yeah.
go into every piece of ground and do all the full details, you know, if it fits in this group, then you just deal with it this way. And, but just walking the site and getting all the actual delineation on the ground, and that delineation is good for 5 years. Once it's made, then if it's beyond the 5 years, you're back to square one.
Couldn't be major changes in 5 years, but
But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why I figured I would add this under member reports. Now, the other thing, before we forget, we need to officially designate a vice chair, so if I decide to be missing for some lame brain reason. Anybody want to challenge Linda for it, or?
well, and if anybody's looking for the excitement and the opportunity to.
Stick your hand up with
Meeting.
your chance.
You
yeah.
don't
Feel
wanna
free
do
to
it?
raise your hand.
You don't wanna do it?
I don't mind doing it.
Then I'll nominate Linda. again.
Second.
Aye. All in favor?
Just
Thank you,
didn't want to
Linda.
hog the glory.
That's all right.
I made the same offer in December, and didn't get any takers either for chair spots.
you wanna make sure.
I
that
don't,
people
I
that
think
approve
Mr.
your
Boggs
things
might
come
be
on.
down in New York City. I don't remember what day
Yeah.
Oh, the
that
conference was?
annual conference
Yeah.
was.
February.
Is that in
No,
February?
February.
Oh, what?
Is it-
Well,
Yeah, that's
they're
according to
today.
the minutes. guys.
Anyway, I don't see him online, don't see him here,
Yeah, I
whatever,
know.
so I won't manage to forget him tonight, as I've tried to do a couple times. In that case, are we ready to bail?
Yep,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor of adjournment?
Adjourn.